Well, hello. Nice to meet you. I'm Alpha. This is Malia. This video kind of marks the beginning of the YouTube side of the house when it comes to content creation for me. The goal, hopefully, being one day in the future, we can hire an editor so I can kind of stream and make the content that I'm passionate about making. So if you enjoy this video, please consider leaving a like and comment, as it's going to kind of help me learn the YouTube side of the algorithm and what maybe some of my YouTube audience wants to see, doesn't want to see, stuff like that. I enjoy a lot of different games, but really I've been just playing Genshin and Withering Waves a lot recently. Expect a lot of your typical reaction, impressions, pull videos on the channel, but also kind of expect maybe a couple videos a month for me that are a little bit more on the creative side. I'll also be posting other video game content on this channel just to kind of keep all the video game content into one specific place. I'll also be working on updating my VOD channel for the people who prefer the YouTube side of things. I want you to still be able to enjoy my streams even if you can't be there at the time. We're also going to be launching a third channel for movies, TV, and anime content. What that content is going to look like is kind of still to be determined. But if you're interested, make sure to subscribe and keep an eye out on the community post side of the channel, because that will be one of the first places I announce when we launch the channel officially, and we'll try to have some content ready for that too. If you want to catch me live over at Twitch, I'll leave the link in the description below to my Twitch channel, along with my Discord and all the other socials. To my Twitch community, to my Twitch and Discord community who are watching this video right now, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for all your support. Every other day, people are DMing me about how happy they are to be a part of the channel and how much they enjoy the streams. So I wouldn't be able to start this kind of next leg of my journey without you guys and your guys' support. So thank you so much. Okay, enjoy the video. Okay, bye. I don't get why anyone's complaining about Stygian. It's exactly what the majority of people wanted. All the primals are trivial to get. So your 3 failures can be gotten AR 20. Third feather takes 36 star abyss. Every rotation, level of investment, and Dyer's temporary skins are meaningless. Yeah. I think it's important to have aspirational content in a game like this. It's a hard pill to swallow. It's okay that there is content that your account is not ready for, because it gives you something to strive for. Now, that's not me defending how sometimes the content is there to try to persuade you or force your hand at pulling. I get that. The avenues for level of improvement would be certain bosses maybe or maybe should not be part of certain rotations, or having a choice in the bosses, stuff like that. There's ways to alleviate this. I think in terms of difficulty, I think it's fine. I think people have shown that you can clear it with 4 stars. You can clear it on low constellations. It is difficult. You have to be lucky with your artifacts. It's doable. Is it doable for the average player? Probably not. But I also would argue that the highest difficulty is not for the average player. I think the weapon skins is my biggest point of work that needs to be done to that mode. That makes no sense to me. Because if I were at the doorstep of being able to complete this content, as of right now, there's no delineation between you clearing this past onslaught to get that, weapon skin, and clearing the second or third onslaught. Now, maybe there's stuff is cooking and there's going to be things happening, sure. To have something to signify that you clear the first onslaught or second or third. Obviously you can make different weapon skins, but that's probably way too much for them to do. But just something like that. Because otherwise, what is the rush? If you're I'm going to go attempt onslaught to get the weapon skin, and you just have you get blasted for 2 hours, you have there's no FOMO. I feel like the weapon skins can be used as a properly healthy FOMO for the player base is trying to engage with. At this point though, the player base that it's trying to engage with at the highest difficulty we're so starved anyway, they honestly don't really give a shit about the weapon skin. They just want to be able to clear the content. And that to them, that's the carrot at the end of the stick. But I would argue they needed, the proper rewards need to be there. The primos are all, you're able to get them. 2 out of 3 feathers, honestly. Feathers are kind of, I don't know. They're useful. They're more useful for early to mid-game account. The more feathers you use, the less useful they are to you. People have been asking for more endgame content aren't going to be satisfied by anything. I like Stygian. Yeah, of course. I agree with that. The issue with Stygian is that I feel like character check more than skill check. Yeah, that's true. I think in a game like this, one of the things that are overlooked is that it is kind of a character collection game. I get your point. But I think that as it is kind of a skill check in some regards, it is a character check in other regards. And I think it's a decent expectation. If I look at character check, theater at the hardest mode is an obnoxious character check. I think Stygian character check is a little bit more realistic outside of certain bosses being ass. Like, you can't do a 4-star clear without certain characters, which is a lot like Abyss and Theater. I agree. But it was on and off. I've never had to restart Imaginarium, but I've had some trouble with some chambers. Yeah. And I think it's a reflection on your account too, for sure, right? And I think at the end of the day, like, a hard pill to swallow for some people is when you do some of this content, sometimes some of this content is bullshit, and it is what it is, and it's not your fault. Other times, some of the content definitely goes to show you, like, you could look at it, have really good constructive criticism to give on some content. But a lot of the times, too, it is a reflection on whether it's the status, the investment, or the luck of your account, right? Some of those things you could take personally and be upset about them. I do, too. I do that myself. And then sometimes you can look at it, it's like it gives you something to work towards, right? I think the integrated system requires more skill on the player's part. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair ask for sure. I disagree about the skill check. Super whale still can't clear it if there are bad builders, and skilled lower spenders can clear. Okay, that's a fair point. My only issue is that it's becoming more and more obvious selling characters over fun for players. I mean, I don't know. I think that's always been the structure of the game, though. I think it depends how long you've been playing, too, honestly. Because in my mind, if you started playing this game early days when this game was, 1.0 character metas, 4 stars were the majority part of your teams, like, the Power 5, I feel like I respect and understand. I think that's a valuable opinion to have. I think it can feel like that sometimes, and sometimes it could feel the other way, though. People complain about Abyss just being a DPS versus clock being fake difficulty, and then they add mechanics and ways so you have to do rotations to bring particular characters, and they bitch about that. I think it's just going to be hard to satisfy everybody. I think the statement can be true that Abyss has become just a huge HP. The HP requirements to clear floors have gone up significantly. I think it's a fair statement to say that it hasn't been a straight line. It's been bumpy. It doesn't look like it's going down. I think it's fair to say that the zoomed out conversation kind of has to do with the power creep kind of thing, of how they decide to implement power creep, right? I think a game like this is gonna have power creep. How you decide to implement on your player base over like a long period of time or a short period of time. I think it's like to say like everyone knew Malwika was gonna be busted, but releasing Malwika and Set Lolly, it's kind of a rough banner. It's kind of a huge jump. Not about letting you play the characters you like, but increasing film when to pull new characters to clear content because that content is skewed just to particular teams/characters. My only rebuttal of that is that it's not every single rotation of an endgame mode. We're not every single banner we're getting new characters. So I guess I agree with you. I would look at it more of like it's FOMO in terms of like how invested you are in the game, right? Your roster of characters, not just having new characters, because you could still clear that ice boss outside of Stygian. Like when the ice boss, the Automaton release in the Abyss, right? People are still able to do it without Skirk teams. You're still able to do it without Escafir. It was harder, but you're still able to do it with old characters. And to your point, which I agree to your point about new characters becoming more busted, but I'm fine with a new character. If they release a character and I'm like, hey, this character's a must pull, it's like super broken. In my mind, the trade-off for me, where I'm probably unique in this, is that if this character releases and it enables older teams for me or older characters that I haven't used in a while, I'm actually kind of happy about that. If it's just like you need Malwika, Silali, Shalonin, you need to pull these characters back to back to back, like I kind of like am more to your point on that scenario. Yeah, I'm here. Later games have had advantages of seeing and addressing what Genshin did wrong. They're also hungry and give more because they had to attract players. I also think people suffer from recency bias when it comes to new games. Games go through ebbs and flows of popularity and player approval, and everybody's happy. Everyone's happy when the game's giving you a bunch of shit. Everyone's happy when the game drops a new patch. It's when it's the in-between patches, the slow patches. I think that's when a lot of the hard work comes in about evaluating the health of the game. Well, players have skewed perspective unless they start a new 1 series account every new series. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed. Like I said, people are like, oh, are you upset you didn't 36 star on the 4 star in 1 month? No, I'm not. I mean, of course, I still think it's doable. I was going to be hard uphill battles. My whole point being, going through that experience of starting a new account tremendously helped my game knowledge and game sense of this game. Even though I understood the game before, it's just a little bit better. Technically, any character is meta if they're C6 R5. What can I say? True. Absolutely. You know what? To your point, and this is going to trigger some people for sure. I'm going to dive into this point here, okay? I have one C6 character. I C6 my Navia, okay? Now, I'll tell you, before I C6 Navia, I only spent money on getting Shalonen. Before Shalonen, I didn't spend any money outside of Welkin Battle Pass since I started the game initially, which was during Sumeru, during an Ayaka patch. Ayaka was my first character. The first few weeks that I C6 Navia, it kind of just felt meh. Like, it was fun to just demolish things, but it got boring demolishing things. So then I was like, damn, it's okay. So I started playing around with other teams, whatever. The moment I realized how valuable a C6 5-star was when I'm just like, the new Abyss is here, let me just load in. Oh, like, just being able to clear this nonchalantly, not giving a shit about checks, honestly, is nice. I'm just gonna say it, okay? I'm just gonna say it, okay? If I'm, like, running low on time, to be able to just go do the Abyss and not worry about it is nice, okay? Is nice. So I totally agree with you there. The value of the, like, C6 in characters is insane. Which, not even just C6ing, but even vertically investing in characters is kind of, I think, the whole argument to be made. C6R5 is like the extreme example, but, you know, C2ing some characters, you know, even C4 and yada yada yada. Like, high investment in a character, something to be said where that's more valuable than horizontal investment. I think Gacha players can and should ask for more better. But people just mostly accept whatever Hoyo gives them and fill their pockets, so why would they change? To this comment, I think it's more of like, I think you gotta pick and choose your battles realistically here. You know, there's been a few times in this game where the community has decided to boycott the game for whatever X amount of reasons, whether it was, you know, moral positions or whatever. I think it's just gonna be a case-by-case basis. I think asking for more in games like this, when you have a monetization structure like this, it's an uphill battle, and it is gonna be kind of like, you gotta take what you can get. And I think the best thing to do outside of this game, in any game, right? If you play any live service game, you don't have to play every single day, all day, right? You can play other games. Play other games, okay? If you're not enjoying pulling in this game, there's other games for you to pull in. That's what I would say to that. Yes, it's possible to avoid power creep and possible to boycott Hoyo. I wouldn't say impossible, but just virtually impossible. Power creep to what content? When it comes to story and mainline content, every character can be used to clear story. Abyss is plus 5 wishes per month. Imaginarium plus 5.5. I see what you're saying there, that it may seem like it's trivial, but for some people, eking out whatever they can, right? If you were trying to min-max this game on a budget, not spending any money or whatever, I mean, those 10.5 wishes do make a difference for some people. I get what you're saying, but even if it's a minority of people that would value those 10.5 wishes, it's still something. Supports have always been king in Genshin. I agree with that. You bring up a good point here. I agree with sometimes things are incentivized for characters and floor buffs and bosses and mechanics. Yes. There's a progression in these games where you start the game, you have this like bliss period, kind of doing what you want, pulling for who you want, but eventually, and I still always encourage people to pull for who they want to pull for, because I think at the end of the day, being able to clear content is all the content in the game is one thing, but being able to enjoy your time playing the game is another thing, and I personally value the latter more than the prior most of the time, right? But I think a lot of the times is, you know, should you have pulled your 5th DPS character? Probably should not have pulled your 5th DPS character, my guy. You should probably have pulled the support, right? Or you should probably thought a little bit more about some of like your team building flexibility options for whatever challenges the game holds you, if your aspiration is to clear the content. If your aspiration is not to f*** around and clear content, then it doesn't matter, right? Pull for whoever you want, build team up whoever you want. I think that's a lot of fun. I think it's a lot more fun, honestly. Even though I enjoy clearing content, I think it's a lot more fun to kind of do what you want to do. Wu was a year old and has worse power creep than Genshin. Those are fight modes right there. I don't know. That's a whole another can of worms. Does Wu have worse power creep than Genshin? I don't know, dude. Let's get my juices turning though. I kind of like, my gut reaction was hell no, but the more I think about it, I'm leaning towards a little bit more like slightly agree, but I'm not all the way there with you. What's sad is when you see same team comparisons where C6 R1 Ayaka, depending on content, is about the same time as C. Yeah, this got me thinking. I have a lot of friends who, you know, go for high constellations on character. I'm talking like above C3, and I think it's always a danger to do that. On one hand, because you're spending a lot of like resources, sometimes money, on getting C6 characters. I just think it's always, I personally, it's just a fucking gamble. Do you really want to be in a position where you C6 a character in a year from now, it's not good somehow? 2 years from now? Like, what is the life expectancy of a C6 to you? Where do you think that should be? Do you think it should be the lifetime of a game? Do you think it should be 2 years, right? Do you think it should be, if it's a DPS character, like Ayaka in this example, right? Do you think it should be 2 or 3 iterations of best in slot cryo? Like, what is that? I don't know. I'm just a guy, okay? I'm just a boy, okay? I'm just asking questions here. Although I do agree with your sentiment, don't get me wrong, okay? That it does feel bad. It definitely does feel bad, okay? Of that, I do think Genshin overvalues a character as a chance to spend $400 for one copy of a character is insane. Overvalues, I agree. But people are spending it. I think, personally, it was a great change when they did the whole laying out how much it would cost to spend money, right? That's a huge change. That was a huge wake-up call for some people. Like, some people never did the math looking at this and be like, wait, how much is it? Like, this is not, as generous as you want it to be. We saw the creep coming in Fonte with Nouvellette, Arlecchino. We'll have to see if they really fuck it up in 6.0, just the new normal for second half of the game's original lifespan. I think we had a huge jump in Notcry, or in Natlin. It could go either way. Honestly, I'll be prepared either way. Personally, I'll be prepared for it in terms of being upset or surprised. I shouldn't say upset. That sounds like I'm projecting. But I'll be prepared either way for it, personally. If I had a choice, I hope that they lean on kind of staying in the lower frames of power creep as much as possible for at least this region. If we're gonna power creep again, like power creep for, the shades kind of situation. That's just my 2 cents on it, though. As someone with C6, R1 Ayaka, and C0 R1 Skirk, they are very similar in performance. But don't I? It's a gacha. Eventually, there's a better version. Later, they rerun. HR Story even suffers from power creep, which is really bad, which is why ZZZ is probably Hoyover's best game. All Story gives you trials, and weekly content gives trials. Okay. I think that's the trajectory. You bring up a good point. The ZZZ comparison. Well, I don't have much. I don't have an opinion or dog in the fight when it comes to HSR or ZZZ. I think what is a noticeable trend to see is that Hoyo will... It's easy to look at a game like Genshin and complain about its flaws, which is healthy. That they don't fix some things and add things that seem to be easy. But in the following release of games, right? From Genshin to HSR, or from Honkai Impact 3rd really to Genshin, to HSR, to ZZZ, you see a lot of quality of life things that people request. Even if the games are different, you see that they implement these things. And you see also Hoyo versus competitors implement some of these things. Clearly they pay attention to some things. It seems like they're good about implementing it in the more recent game, but it's harder for them to retroactively add things, or I say harder, they seem more reluctant to add it for whatever reason, whether it is resources or time or priority, whatever it is, or predatory behavior even. Since you asked Ayaka Skirk question, doesn't bother me at all. It's Skirk caught up to my Ayaka. I could have stuck an Ayaka, clear whatever I want, but I like Skirk. You were ready for a new iteration on your kind of cryo comp. You came with it, like you accepted it with kind of open arms, right? But I'm sure, like you've been a long-term player, well-invested player, right? In terms of like your resources in the game, smart building. I'm sure you could understand how it could feel bad for somebody who, like, say you just pulled fucking Ayaka on the Chronicled Wish or something. Say you C6 Ayaka on the Chronicled Wish, and then Skirk comes around. You could see scenarios where it would feel bad. Whether you should make better decision or whatever, like, don't get me wrong. Certainly, if they pulled a C6 on Chronicled right before Skirk, that would have been a choice. Chronicled is literally these characters didn't make money anymore, so let's try to sell it again. Banner. They're there because they don't perform anymore. Yeah. Even with how predatory gachas are, it's all out in the open. It's still better than AAA live service shit shows. I don't know, dude. Do I agree with that statement? That's a good question. I think there's a lot of value, ironically, as somebody who came from AAA live service shit shows. Like, for example, I played a little indie game called Destiny many, many years. More than 10,000 hours in that franchise. I mean, more than 10,000 hours in Destiny 2, across console and PC. I would get shit from my friends over there, and rightfully so. But I love my Destiny friends, don't get me wrong. My Destiny homies. I would get shit from my friends when I started playing, more gacha games. During some down periods in Destiny, because, just like any other live service game, it's, oh, we're so back, oh, it's fucking game's done, oh, we're so back, it does a whole content cycle like that. During one of those down periods, whatever, I started playing gacha games, and I would get a lot of shit, like, oh, I get the moral, what are you doing playing those games, blah, blah, blah. It's like, bro, I spend more money in Destiny than I have in gacha games, like, even to this day, even to this fucking day. I had a C6 character, so I'm getting close, for sure, but that statement is still true. Still true. And so, yeah, it gets lost in sauce a little bit. Luckily, I didn't have some, I have an addictive personality, don't get me wrong, but I didn't have the addictive personality of throwing my wallet at problems. But I know some people do. I guess wait for ads. Thank God I'm caught up in chat, though. More $1,500 in Genshin, probably around that amount. That sports betting stuff is damn. Yeah. How about that amount of War Thunder?